I have to first off start out stating this is the 10th week of us not meeting in person. Crazy, right? Miss you guys dearly, and I hope that you're doing well. Today we are kicking off a new series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. Now, do you ever feel like you are living in two different worlds? You know, there's your life in the actual world, whether it be at school or at home these past 9 weeks, or with your friends, maybe in the band, maybe playing sports, maybe at a camp or a retreat, or at church. You know, when we used to gather in the attic at church a few weeks ago. Then there's your life at home. Now, I probably wouldn't admit it, but isn't it true that we're all way different at home? We all act in ways at home that we would never act at a friend's house or at school or in public. Not only are we different at home, but most of us are a little more difficult, right? Think about it. You would never leave your nasty socks on the stairs at a friend's house, but you don't think twice about leaving your socks out at your own house. You would never maybe talk to a coach the way that you do your mom, and you probably wouldn't treat your teammates or your other friends as you might do your brother or sister. And like me, honestly, you probably don't go off nearly as quickly on anybody outside your house as you do the people living in your house. But why is this? Why do we act differently depending on where we are and who we're around? I think one of the main reasons for me is I think of home kind of like it's my world and everyone else is just kind of here. You know what I mean? For some of us, home feels like the only place it's safe for us to be the realest versions of ourselves. And the people we live with hopefully still love us, even when we're ridiculous. What do you do about it when you know you're part of the reason that things are tense, but you have no idea what to do about it? Now, you don't need me to tell you that family is hard. But the good news in all of this is that the difficulty you face with your family isn't just you. And it's been going on for thousands of years. Now, one of the things that I love about the Bible is how it gives us a real look at real people who lived real lives with real problems. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to spend some time looking at the life of this dude named Joseph. Joseph was one of the most famous people in the first half of history found in the Bible. He's a guy just like us, found himself in all kinds of situations where he didn't know what to do. Now, Joseph's story is a little crazy. It's like one of the most dramatic Netflix shows that you've ever seen. There's murder plots, he's sold into slavery, he's unfairly put into jail. The story twists and turns literally everywhere, and the drama just literally doesn't stop. We're going to get into that in the next few weeks. But all the drama, we realize, starts with his family. Now, Joseph was one of 12 sons who all had Jacob as their dad. Jacob's story was a little complicated. He fell in love with this woman named Rachel, but was tricked into marrying Rachel's sister Leah instead. But Jacob loved Rachel so much that he worked for her father for 7 years so that he could marry her as well. Yes, that's Jacob having 2 wives. And they were sisters. It's kind of like a Jerry Springer episode. Jerry Springer? Google it. Actually, don't. So there were 2 other women that he also never married, but he also had children with. So plot twist here. Rachel, the wife of Jacob, couldn't have children, while all these other women gave him kids. Rachel couldn't, and all of a sudden, though, like she came pregnant with Joseph. He was like the miracle baby that Jacob had, and Jacob, the dad, was crazy about him. That means in this family, 1 father, 4 mothers, and 12 sons. Some drama, right? Because it was no secret who the favorite was here. This is where we pick up the life of Joseph. Now, I'm telling you guys, the Bible has got some crazy stories in it. In Genesis 37, we read about how Jacob made a special robe for Joseph. And it was a physical reminder of how much more his dad loved him than the other brothers. And the brothers despised him for it. This robe was kind of like the new Jordans. It was a big deal. But that wasn't the only issue. Joseph had a series of these dreams. Genesis 37, we see, it says this, "Listen to this dream," he said. "We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine." Now, this wasn't your typical dream, and the brothers knew it. This dream wasn't about grain. It was about power. And Joseph was sending a message by sharing this dream. He was saying, "Hey guys, listen to this. I know I'm going to be more powerful than you one day. And when that day comes, you will all worship me." For a younger brother to say this to his older brothers was probably not going to fly. The passage goes on in verse 8 of Genesis 37. It says, "His brothers responded, 'So you think you'll be our king, do you? You actually think you will reign over us?' And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them." Kind of a harsh vibe here, right? Joseph's brothers were over his robes and they were over his dreams. And then Joseph had another dream involving the sun, the moon, the stars, all bowing down to him. It was the same message, but this time it included his parents bowing down to him as well. Can you imagine and see the drama in this family? One dad, 4 moms, a dozen boys, and now the favorite son who goes around telling people he's having these visions of everyone bowing down to him. What? Joseph was behaving like all of us do in our family sometimes, though, aware of how we are being treated and not really aware of how it's affecting anyone else. Joseph's family was the same. All Joseph's brothers could see was how the whole situation affected them, the unfairness and the injustice. I mean, Joseph receiving the robe he did as a gift was like being given a brand new car when he had turned 16, while all the other brothers and sisters had to share mom's old minivan. It wasn't right, and they saw it. The truth is, even though these few verses are more about some strange dreams and a coat, it's about how the drama in the family was never dealt with. The drama was left to grow, and we are still reading the story today for a reason. Why? To show us that family has always been complicated. To teach us to pay attention to how our actions affect the people we live with. And to remind us that drama left unresolved will never just go away. It will always escalate to something bigger. Next week we'll talk more about that. But until then, what could everyone in the family have done differently? Joseph could have started to see himself as part of the problem. The dad could have recognized how his favoritism was affecting everyone else in the family. And now the brothers, they could have maybe chilled out a little bit on some of the grudges and the gossip about Joseph. And everybody could have ignored Joseph's dreams and not allowed their insecurities to control them. The point is this: Joseph's family drama isn't all that different than our own. Whether you're the favorite one, the angry one, the firstborn, the lastborn, the quiet one, or the one with the gold medal and door slamming, the truth is the same. There is a role that you play in your family. Pay attention to how your words and your actions contribute to the tone in the house. Are you improving it, or are you making it more tense? Pay attention to how you affect your family. And then choose how you'll treat them. If you aren't sure where to begin, take a look at this passage in the letter that Paul wrote to the church in Philippi. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 says, "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look only on your own interest, but that an interest in others as well. You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God, and he died a criminal's death on a cross. Jesus gave up the privileges that came with being God. He deserved to be treated like God, but didn't require that of people. He chose to serve and have compassion on people, even when they didn't deserve it. Paul's reminding the Philippian church here and is reminding us to be that kind of person to those around us. So here's the question. How do we do that when we don't know what to do at our house? We start by paying attention to how we see ourselves. Do we think or act like we're better than people in our house or in our family? Maybe, maybe not. What would it look like to treat our siblings, maybe our step-siblings, our cousins, or the other adults in our house as equal or maybe even more important than ourselves? And finally, maybe the hardest of all, we need to invite someone else to speak into how we treat our family. In fact, asking someone maybe older or wiser is one of the best things to do when we don't know what to do. And this, guys, is why we have small group leaders and leaders in our ministry that serve. We all need people around us and people older than us, like a leader, who can know what's really going on in our lives and can point us in directions of our family of how to love them. Your leaders love you, and we're all here for you. I'm honestly thankful for Kaylee and EJ and Matt and Kinley and Mary and Heather, Sarah Beth, Scott, Phil, Paul, Taylor, John, all of our 56 leaders. And though we aren't in person, myself and these leaders are still present, and we're here for you. We love you guys. We miss you guys. Now let's wrap this up. Imagine for a second if everybody in your family did this. What if everyone paid attention to how they affected everyone else? What would it do for your relationship with the people who live at your house? What would it do for the general level of tension or peace in your house? What if it started with you? It could.